They say you shouldn't ignore your gut, the little twist in your stomach when something just isn't right. But you do anyway. We all do. Because the alternative is admitting that you might be in danger. And that would mean changing something. And I didn't want to change a damn thing. I just moved to Albertsville, a small, fog-laced speck of a town tucked between two hills and hidden from the interstate like it was embarrassed to exist. I came there because I needed to stop drinking. My wife said that I had to get clean or get gone. And I got both. Clean and gone. I found a room above a diner and a job within 2 days. The only place hiring was Price's Hardware, a squat brick building with a hand-painted sign and warped glass windows that still bore ads for paint brands that hadn't existed since the Nixon era. Price's Hardware smelled like old oil, fresh sawdust, and despair. And I loved it immediately. The owner, a wrinkled man with leathery skin and a glass eye that never quite looked at you, handed me a red vest and said, "You start tomorrow. Morning shift. Read the rules." "Rules?" I asked. He pointed to the back wall, where a faded corkboard held a piece of yellowing paper typed on a typewriter. Actual keys and ink ribbon and everything. The kind of document that hums with age. And it read, "Employee rules. Price's Hardware. For all staff, including you. Yes, you. Rule number 1. Greet everyone by name. If you don't know their name, ask. If they don't have a name, close the register and go to the break room. Rule number 2. The bell above the door rings once when a customer enters. If it rings twice, lock the door immediately. Rule 3. Never enter aisle 7 after 3:33 p.m. Just don't. 4. Mr. Price does not work here anymore. Do not speak of him in front of the customers. 5. If the wet floor sign is out, stay behind the counter. Don't ask why. 6. Occasionally, you'll find a list written in your handwriting that you don't remember writing. Don't destroy it. Read it. Obey it. Rule 7. If the lights flicker in the back storage room, whistle. Loudly. That usually works. Rule 8. If you hear knocking from inside the vending machine, take your break early. Rule 9. Never, ever let the man in the green sweater return his item. You'll know it's him when you see him. And Rule 10. Clock out by 7 p.m. No exceptions. And I remember laughing. Like it was a joke. "I see someone's got a sense of humor," I said. The old man didn't laugh. "You'll do fine," he muttered, and disappeared into the back where I never saw him again. That was Monday. And by Friday, I had stopped laughing. The first time I heard the bell ring twice, it was Thursday. The week had been unremarkable otherwise. Slow foot traffic, mostly regulars, retirees buying one screw at a time like they were rationing the apocalypse. Young couples arguing over which kind of cock to buy. But I got used to it. I started learning names. I whistled when the lights flickered and nothing happened. Stayed behind the counter when the yellow sign was out. Still don't know who put it there. And even avoided aisle 7 like it was radioactive, which honestly wasn't hard. It was just an aisle of plungers and bathroom tile samples. Barely stocked. I hadn't thought about much the list since then. It felt like quirky hometown weirdness. The kind of thing that people do in small towns to make themselves feel like the world hasn't moved on without them. But then the bell rang. And then again. It didn't sound aggressive, just wrong. Like it wasn't part of the same building. Like someone had recorded a bell sound on an old tape and played it back just a half-second late. And I looked up from the counter. And no one was there. Not in the parking lot, not at the register, just me and the bell echoing in my teeth. And then I remember the rule. If it rings twice, lock the door immediately. And so I did. I flipped the bolt shut and twisted the deadlock until it clicked. And then I stood there behind the counter, heart tap dancing in my chest like it knew something that I didn't. And after maybe a minute, A man appeared outside. He wasn't there, and then he was. Not walking up, not driving in, just there, standing too close to the glass. Like a mannequin, someone had leaned against the door. He looked ordinary. And that was the worst part. Corduroy pants, beige jacket, comb over trying its best, and he stared through the glass, unblinking, hands loose at his sides, mouth slightly open like he was about to say something, but never did. And he didn't knock. He didn't move. Just watched. For 10 minutes. And then he stepped backward, again, not walking, just slid. Like someone had pressed rewind on him. He descended into the parking lot like the fog pulled back at dawn. And he was gone. That night, I had told myself that I had imagined it. Maybe I was overtired. Maybe I just watched too many horror movies growing up. But when I clocked in the next morning, there was a piece of paper folded on the counter. Crisp, white, perfectly square. Not aged like the original rules. No typewriter font this time. Just clean blue ink in my own handwriting. But I knew I hadn't written it. The note said, "To me from me. Don't unlock the door until 8:15. Not even if someone knocks. Especially if someone knocks. Check the back room before taking inventory. If you smell oranges, leave immediately. Aisle 7 isn't what it looks like. Look underneath the third shelf on the left. Keep your phone charged. You'll need the light soon. You'll start to forget things. Start writing everything down." And at the bottom, scribbled sloppily, "You'll see her tonight." I didn't know who she was, but I did see her. It was a strange thing, knowing that someone was coming for you but having no clue what. And the note haunted me all day. Every customer that walked in could have been her. Every creak of the old floorboards felt like a countdown. And aisle 7? That bastard nodded me too. It was just an aisle. Linoleum samples, paint swatches, and a few plungers of some cracked boxes of grout. But now I couldn't stop staring at it. Every pass I made, every shelf I stocked, my eyes drifted to that crooked green 7 hanging overhead, swinging ever so slightly even though the ceiling fans hadn't worked in years. Around 2:30, with the store empty and the bell mercifully silent, I made a decision that only someone stupid or desperate would make. I went in. I glanced at the wall clock. 2:34 p.m. Safe enough, according to the rule. Never enter aisle 7 after 3:33 p.m. But there was another instruction from the new note. Look underneath the third shelf on the left. And so I crouched down. Dusty floor, cobwebs, some loose washers, and a dead fly. But then I saw it. Tucked up under the lip of the bottom shelf was a metal ring, like the kind that you pull to open a trap door. It was wedged so tightly against the wall that you'd never notice it unless you were looking for it, and I pulled. It didn't give at first. Then, with a groan like a dying animal, the shelf creaked upward, revealing a square hole cut into the floor beneath it. Old. Wooden. Not modern at all, like something from a storm cellar in a farmhouse that time forgot. A smell rotting up out of it. Not rot, not mildew. Oranges. And my mouth went dry. I slammed the shelf shut so hard a can of wood varnish fell and burst open behind me. And I staggered back, and that is when I saw her. At the end of the aisle. Just standing there. She was young. Maybe 20, maybe 40. It was hard to tell. Pale skin, long brown hair tied in a loose braid. Blue hoodie, jeans, and her face was soft and sad even. The kind of face that you made when you wanted to apologize for something that you hadn't done. But her eyes were the worst part. They weren't wrong exactly, just familiar. Like looking into a mirror that you hadn't realized that you were standing in front of. And she tilted her head, bird-like, curious. And then she mouthed something. No sound, just lips moving, but finally I was able to catch it. Do you remember yet? And I blinked, and she was gone. And I was standing there, frozen when the bell rang. And then again, I sprinted to the front of the store, heart going ballistic in my chest, and I slammed the door bolt shut. But no one was there. Just the ghost of the bell, echoing, like laughter in a dream. And that night, I found another note. Same folded paper. Same handwriting. To me, from me. Friday night. Don't go back to the hole. Not yet. The girl is not dangerous, but she is lost. Ask Shirley about the ledger. Watch your reflection. It will blink at the wrong time. Clock out before 7 p.m. Even if someone begs you to stay. I turned the note over. One final line was scrawled across the back. You forgot your name once. Don't do it again. And I remembered something that I shouldn't have. Something old. A room. A crying woman. And a small brass key with my name engraved on it. Except the name, it wasn't mine. It was Price. Saturday morning came with a gray sky and a pressure in the air like something heavy was about to fall. The kind of weather that made everything feel like it was being held just out of reach. Sun, peace, understanding. I didn't sleep much the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. The girl in the hoodie, mouthing those words. Do you remember yet? I didn't, but I wanted to. The store was quiet when I unlocked the front door. I paused before flipping the sign, half expecting the man in the beige jacket to be standing there again, breathing on the glass. But he wasn't. Not yet. The morning passed in a haze. I greeted people by name, Ralph, Shirley, old Mrs. Barnes, and none of them acted like anything was wrong. Like they didn't hear the strange double bell or smell the oranges or know about the trap door under aisle 7. It wasn't until Shirley came in around noon, asking for replacement gas caps, that I remembered the line in the note. Ask Shirley about the ledger. She was leaning against the counter, chatting about gardenias when I asked her, Hey Shirley, do you know anything about a ledger? She froze. Not dramatically, just stopped talking mid-sentence, like someone hit pause. And then, very carefully, she reached into her purse, pulled out a key, old and brass, and slid it across the counter. That's the key to the filing cabinet in the office, she said. The bottom drawer. And that was it. No further explanation. She paid for her gas caps and left like nothing had happened. The office was just a cluttered closet behind the back storage room. The filing cabinet in question was tall, steel, and rustling at the edges. The bottom drawer didn't have a label. And so I used the key. Inside were rows of manila folders, old receipts, warranty cards, and under all that, a black leather ledger, like the kind priests might keep beside a deathbed. And I opened it. Names. Hundreds of them. And dates beside each. Some scratched out, others circled, but one entry stood out. Because it was the only one written in red ink. Eli Price, June 3rd, 2012. Revoked. That was my name. Eli. Not once since moving here had I heard anyone say it. Not even me. I had forgotten my own damn name. And apparently, I had been here before. I flipped through the ledger, panic rising like bile. Dozens of other names had the word revoked next to them. Some also had the word replaced. But mine did not. There was a note in the back, scrawled in angry cursive. Do not assign new staff without a complete reset. Eli was a mistake. He remembers. She's attached to him. Containment impossible. And I slammed the book shut and backed away like it had burned me. And the lights flickered in the back storage room. Without thinking, I whistled a long, slow note. And the light steadied. But in the reflection of the dusty window beside me, I saw myself. Or at least someone who looked like me. Staring back. And he blinked before I did. I ran back to the front counter, back to the only rule that made sense anymore. Clock out before 7 p.m., no exceptions. It was 6:41. As I reached for the time card, a knock came from the back door. Not the front, not the bell. A knock. 3 soft taps. And then a voice. Familiar. Soft. Eli, please, let me in. It's me. It was the girl. I didn't open the door. I stood there, frozen, time card inches from the slot as her voice seeped the wood like smoke through floorboards. Eli, I don't have long. Please, I remember you. Don't leave me in the dark again. Again? The word landed like a hammer to my chest. My hand hovered over the lock. I wanted to open it. Every part of me ached to see her face, to make sense of the whole gnawing at the edges of my memory. But I thought of the rule. Even if someone begs you to stay. So I punched the time card hard. The machine clacked and the door behind me went silent. And then I ran. I had barely made it to my car before the lights in the store flickered violently, casting long, stuttering shadows behind every window. The glass warped like it was breathing. I could feel something staring at me through it. And I drove without blinking, ignoring the speed limit signs, ignoring the world. I didn't slow until I hit the outskirts of Albertsville and realized there was no road out. Just fog. Gray and thick and endless, curling against the windshield like fingers. My GPS spun in circles. My phone wouldn't load a map. The highway wasn't just gone. It had never been there. And when I turned to go back into town, Price's Hardware was there. Right in front of me. Like I had never left. I didn't go inside. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, reading and rereading the notes that I'd collected, trying to make sense of the girl, of the ledger, of the reflections and the trap door and the oranges. But what finally broke me was the final note that I found in my pocket, folded tight. I didn't remember putting it there. Same handwriting. This one was short. To me, from me. Final. You are Price. She was your sister. You were trying to forget. You broke containment to remember her. They warned you. And on the back it said, one last key. You know where. I knew. I didn't want to. But I did. The next morning, if it was morning. I walked back inside. No one questioned it. No police. No concerned co-workers. Just the smell of paint and sawdust and a faint whiff of citrus, always lingering in the air like rot behind drywall. And I went straight to aisle 7. 2:59 p.m. I opened the trapdoor. And this time, I climbed down. The passage was narrow, wooden and damp. The smell of oranges grew stronger the deeper that I went. The air felt wrong, too dense, like breathing underwater. There were carvings on the walls, names, hundreds of them scratched in by hand. And I found mine 3 times in different handwriting. And at the bottom was a room, wooden, round, like the inside of a barrel. And in the center, a chair. And strapped to it, the girl. Her. She looked up, weak, pale, but real. "Eli," she croaked, "you came back." "I don't understand," I whispered. And she smiled, and for the first time I saw it. Her eyes. Not just familiar. Identical to mine. "You locked me down here. You made the rules. You knew that you'd forget again. But I'm your tether, Eli. Your anchor. They said I was unstable, a threat. But you couldn't let them erase me completely." And I staggered back. "No, that's not... I don't remember any of this." "That's the point. You never do." She nodded towards the back wall. There, buried in shadow, was a mirror. A perfect, tall mirror with a brass frame. I stepped towards it. The man inside didn't move. But he did smile. And he looked just like me. But he had 2 glass eyes, one in each socket. And the lights flickered. And the chair was suddenly empty. And the girl, she was gone. And then the mirror shattered. And I woke up behind the counter. It's today again, I think. Shirley came in for garden hose clamps. The bell just rang once. And then again. And I know what that means. I also know that it doesn't matter. Because I've started to forget again. But the hole's still there. So is the ledger. And the oranges. And now you're here, listening to this. So listen carefully. The final rule. If you're listening to this and you remember, don't apply at prices. Not even if the sign says help wanted. Not even if you need to disappear. Because you already did. And they're just waiting for you to come back. My dad was military, so we had to move the summer before my senior year in high school. I wasn't taking it well. Senior year is supposed to be special. Graduation parties, prom, senior pranks. Instead, my senior year became memorable for a far darker reason. One that seems to keep me up at night. Once school started, I kept to myself, sitting in a secluded area inside, next to the cafeteria, right before the bell rang. I didn't know anyone, so I figured, why not? About 2 weeks in, I noticed it. One Monday morning, someone had doodled on the wall next to my chair. Next to the doodle was a speech bubble, like in a comic book. And it simply said, "Hello." The doodle was basic. A circular head with black eyes and a big toothless smile, stick figure arms waving. I thought that it'd be funny to write back, so I pulled out a Sharpie and wrote, "Hello." And that was all. The next day I returned to my spot and, to my surprise, someone had written back. And it read, "Nice to meet you. What's your name?" Weirdly, there was no trace of my previous writing. I wrote my name and thus began our correspondence. The person would ask basic questions and I would answer. Whenever I asked anything about them, they simply wrote, "I'm your friend." The doodle itself changed slightly each time, sometimes a thumbs up and sometimes a wink. I was amazed at how clean the doodle looked every time. I thought maybe the janitor was writing to me and painting over the wall to reply. The following morning, things got weird. That morning, the doodle wasn't smiling. It had angry eyebrows and hand on its hips. And the text read, "Where were you?" It caught me off guard. Did this person come back over the weekend to continue talking? I wrote back. It was the weekend. WTF. At lunch, I decided to eat at my spot. I looked over at the doodle, expecting it to have the same text from the morning. But it had changed again. And it read, "Don't leave me alone again. Friends don't leave friends." I thought whoever was writing this to me was either kidding or taking it too seriously. And I wrote back, "Goodbye," with a sad face. And that was the last time I replied. I avoided that area out of annoyance, hoping the artist would get the hint. I made a couple of friends and started hanging out with them in the morning. And after a couple of weeks, I had nearly forgotten about the doodle. But then, it came back. One morning I opened my locker to find it completely trashed. And on the back wall of the locker was the damn doodle, more detailed this time, with teary eyes. The text read, "Why did you leave me? We were friends." Whoever this was had taken it too far. I told my friends and they wanted to see it. When I opened my locker, everything was clean. They thought that I was messing with them, but I was unnerved. How did they do that? I grabbed everything from my locker and never used it again. The following week in second period, I got scared. I walked into class to see students gathering around my desk, talking frantically. Someone had scribbled all over my desk, "You're a bad friend." And in the middle of the desk was a squashed cockroach. The way that it was killed made it look like the doodle. I spoke with my teacher and told her everything. She asked me to show her the doodle, but it was gone from every place that it had been. And I felt like a freak. People moved on from the desk incident after a few days, and I kept my head low. My friends were a good distraction as we joked around and talked about anime. I never mentioned the doodle to them again. Several weeks passed without incident. I thought that it was over. But there was one more encounter. During fourth period, I went to the bathroom. No one else was there. And when I closed the stall, there it was again. This time, the doodle was more detailed, screaming and clawing at its face. The words, "I'll kill you," were scrawled all over the door. I had had enough. I grabbed toilet paper and tried to wipe it off. But the smear turned red, like blood. No matter how much I wiped, the red ink remained. It looked like I was smearing blood all over the door. My hand was covered in red ink. I ran to the sink, but the more water and soap I used, the larger the stain became. It looked like my hand was bleeding. I grabbed a paper towel, but it just stained it. But it was the stain that made me run home. The paper towel had the doodle's screaming face in red ink. It took me a long time to clean my hands completely. I now hated going to school. Every day I was scared of what I might find. And the bathroom showed no sign of ink, red or black. But one day at my second period desk, there was a note in the corner. "I'm sorry. Goodbye," with a small heart next to it. And that was the last note that I ever received from my mystery pen pal. At the beginning of the next semester, I saw another student writing something on the wall where I used to sit. Was this my stalker? I went over to confront him, but then I saw the doodle, just as it had been. He was writing back to it. I wanted nothing to do with it, and so I left. And 3 weeks later, the boy was reported missing. He just disappeared one day. And And one morning, walking to first period, I stopped to tie my shoe near my old spot. I looked at the wall, and the doodle was there, but with another one next to it. I got closer and thought, that looks like the missing guy. The second doodle was screaming, and the text above them read, "Do you want to be our friend?"